Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 38 of Builders Talk. Good morning, Larissa. Thanks for joining me today. So I've previously spoke in other episodes about the 5 phases of business growth that I've identified for builders' businesses. And they are the launch phase, the growth phase, the secure phase, the polishing phase, and the freedom or liberate phase. And I'd identified these, each of these business phases as we sort of move through our business. Each phase of business growth requires a different set of skills to deliver that desired outcome for each builder. When you first start your business, you have a different set of challenges than when you have an established business. And when I was building our custom home building business, I got to a stage where I no longer had the necessary skills to keep pushing the business to the next level. When you get to this point, when you start to realize you may be starting to become overwhelmed, stressed, or you know what you should be doing, but you can't seem to work out how to do the things to keep moving forward to your desired goals, you start looking for outside support. And I went on this journey as well. And I started to look at what support was available to our business. There's not a lot that catered to the building industry and not many that supported the business side of building businesses. You could go and do, certificate 4 in building construction, and it touched a bit on contracts, estimating, reading of plans, but still nothing that provided an insight into how to run a business. My daughter has just finished year 12, and she's going to start working in one of our businesses. We also have a building certification, or people might know it as building surveying business. She was discussing with me what she would get paid, and I told her that what the award was. And she said, well, that is less than what I get paid now at my current job. And so I explained to her that she was casual, so she got more in her hourly rate as she didn't get paid for holidays. She didn't quite understand, so I explained, that she gets paid when she had a holiday, or she'd get paid if she had a day off because she was sick. And she got, a little bit less each week to compensate for this pay that she would get while she wasn't at work. And she promptly turned around to me and she said, but Mum, why didn't they teach me this at school? She's just finishing school and moving into her working career, but had no understanding of how her pay would work. And I guess it's like business. Some things we just don't get taught. There is this gap. And I want to stand in that gap for builders. And I want to take the pressure off the small mum and dad building businesses. And I want to stop the overwhelm and the stress, the chaos, and, the complications that we all suffer through. So I see, builders as a bit of a different breed. There's a lot of ego and a lot of pride involved, and I see and hear it all the time from builders. Builders typically won't put their hand up until it's a do or die situation. It's bucketing down rain here. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but if you can, that's what it is. We keep pushing. I just need one more contract. I just need a bigger job, and all of my problems will be solved. So in our business, probably around 2013, times were really tough. There wasn't a lot of work around. We were stuck in the race to the bottom price war with other builders. We were constantly quoting jobs, but we just weren't getting jobs because they were saying they could get that, done cheaper with another builder. So our business was floundering, and I'd racked up a $50,000 credit card debt to basically feed my family and pay our mortgage repayments. And I didn't want to tell my husband that our business that he worked so hard in wasn't working. The toll weighed heavily on me, and I started to see the toll on other builders for the risks that we were taking, and I decided that it had to change. I guess I felt the first-hand effects on how this affects families, marriage breakdowns, and if not breakdowns, there's really some serious issues that happen within that family unit that need ironing out. I've often been picked up off the shower floor. I was trying to pinpoint the point in time when I realized I needed to stand in that gap for builders. This was in 2015 when I heard about a local builder that had taken his life. It really hit me as I drove to work when I realized and fully understood how he felt. I still remember the day driving down along the Esplanade, looking out to the water and thinking, I understand that he didn't have any other option. I've felt that way and couldn't sort of find a solution to to fix the pain that I was in. And I could see how he couldn't find the solution to sort of fix the pain that he was in either. You know, I'd had that. I'd had the times when I felt like there was no way out, no way to fix the situation. And my way at the time was a $50,000 credit card. I thought by the time, I guess the time that I'd hit that credit card limit, you know, that I'd spent $50,000, things would have changed. But it didn't. It got to the point where that credit card was fully maxed out. And I didn't have any way now to help pay for the things that I know I needed to pay for. So it wasn't till that card hit that limit, I had to fess up and tell my husband, because I had no way of bailing us out anymore. Guess it was a really difficult conversation to have with him. I still remember having that conversation, and I guess I understand from the builder that took his life that he'd probably tried all of those options, all the options that he could think of or that he had access to. But we often let our ego or our pride keep us in this, I guess, hidden spot where people don't know what we're going through or understand what we're going through. And I understand from a builder's point of view and a builder's wife point of view, this place that a lot of them end up in. And we feel like we've failed not only ourselves, but also our families. We feel like we've let a lot of people down. And luckily, once I told my husband, although he was angry for me not telling him, he understood why I'd done what I'd done. He told me it didn't matter. You know, he said, we can just walk away. But we don't want to walk away. And I certainly didn't. I couldn't let go of our family home. I couldn't let go of our lifestyle. I felt the shame of the failure. And, you know, there's people that relied on us. There was my staff. You know, what would happen to them? I had to find a solution and I had to find it quickly. So a lot of what I found didn't suit where I was at in my business. There were programs that probably helped me stay accountable. They might have pushed me to do something. But nothing was really tailored to my business. No one really seemed to care about me and how I felt. And I started to learn that we can have systems or we can have processes, but a lot of what we had to do, had to do with us, the business owners, you know, how we felt, how we were coping, how we were perceiving situations. I just needed some sort of hope that someone had been through what we were going through and understood me and understood how I was feeling and could put things in perspective so that I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I wanted to find someone that had worked through the solutions, someone that had, you know, was meeting me where I was at. So not just a generic one-size-fits-all answer. I felt like no one understood the pain that I was in. And I could find accountants that moved into the building space and specialized in coaching builders, but it was all just about the numbers. Yes, the numbers were wrong. They were totally wrong at the time, but there wasn't any answers of how to fix the numbers. There was a way to identify the numbers, and that numbers looked terrible, but there was not really any advice on how I could make those numbers work for me and become better. You know, there was marketers that saw an opportunity to capitalize on building, you know, on builders that were searching for answers. And I guess one of my friends asked me to come to a Tony Robbins event in Sydney in 2018. And I was really uncomfortable there. You know, he was asking us to dig deep into, I don't even know what he was asking me to dig deep into, because I didn't understand what half the stuff was going on about. There seemed to be a lot of yelling and a lot of jumping and a lot of screaming, but I guess it was what I call woo-woo stuff. But then the next minute I found myself uncontrollably crying, and I literally cried the whole time I was there. And my friend said to me, you know, I've never seen you cry. And she said, it's usually her that's one crying. And I was crying because we were at a point in our business where we had enough and we didn't want to keep doing it. It was too hard. The clients were draining. The process was long. I was crying because I knew if we made a decision to walk away, I'd have to let go of our staff. I'd have to let go of my sister who worked for us, you know, my office girl who is now a close friend. This pushed me further, I guess, to work out how I could fill the gap so that others didn't have to feel this way. I was in pain, and I knew that there was a lot of other people and a lot of wives, especially, in the same sort of pain that just didn't know or couldn't help their husbands to get out of the pain that they might have been feeling in their business. So this led me to finding a solution to push our business to the next phase of growth, but also, I guess, to define what I saw as business success, not what everyone else's ideas were of success for a building business. So in early 2019, I started speaking to builders' wives about how they were feeling about their business. And their main concerns were, what was working for them and what wasn't, and the common theme was that I identified that there was no consistency, that they were always working in the minute. There was no way of forecasting what was happening in their business. It was so up and down. The cash flow was up and down. Their emotions were up and down. They didn't really have any sort of controls of what was happening in the business because there was just no guidance and no dashboard that really gave them any indication of what was happening in their business or what was potentially going to happen in their business. So it wasn't till they got to a point of do or die that maybe that they, start to go, gee, we really need to do something. Let's try and, find some way of fixing it. But that usually came in the form of, we just need to get one more contract and that'll pull us out of the hole that we're in. But it just never would do that. So there was no one listening to where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do. And this sort of come back to the definition of what success looked like to them. Every business owner had a different view of what success was, but no one was listening to what their definition of success was. So over the last few years, I identified the building phases that all builders' businesses go through. And this, gave the builders the ability to identify where they are at in their business growth. And I developed the custom construct code that identified where builders' blind spots are so that we can incrementally make changes that, don't necessarily require you to rework your whole business. It's a doable system that moves you forward fast and uncovers more profit and time. So programs that are as custom as the homes that you build. Everyone just wanted hope that they could fulfill their desire of what, I guess, they envisaged when they started their business. They want to find that sweet spot, a spot that gave them what they wanted and what they imagined when they started their business. And I found a way to fill that gap, and that gap, where you want someone to say, this is the best path forward for your business. Between the business phases and the custom construct code, these two concepts coupled together fill that gap and identify the direction you need to go to get the desired results you're after within your building business. So I will be running the custom construct code workshop a few times next month. So if you want to alleviate the overwhelm and step into the new year with a different perspective, head to my website, which is designherbuilder.com, and click on the registration to link. The register link. Click on the link to register for the workshop. And until next week, keep powering your business.